what they say about the land of Hollywood, don't you? Nothing is new. Everything is simply recycled. Even the movies that we see today are all remakes and rehashes of things that we've known before. Well, recently I was looking through a collection of some of my interviews with some of the Hollywood greats, and here's the story that the late and wonderful Mickey Rooney shared with me. And it did make me smile, really, because when you think about it, we think about reality TV stars, don't we? And people like that today coming up with all these PR stunts, which everybody's shocked by, and then they make the headlines. And then, of course, people say, oh, what a good idea. Well, Mickey told me that way back in the early 50s, when he was over here in England making a movie, he became, as one can imagine, rather friendly with this stunning lady, Anita Ekberg. And she, of course, went on to fame in the movie And God Created Women, basically late in the 50s. But at this point in her career, she'd won a beauty contest, was signed to Universal Films, and starring with the comedy duo Abbott and Costello, over here in England doing some promotion. And according to Mickey, what she decided to do, which was rather clever, was she was staying at the Barclay Hotel in London, which still today is part of the Savoy Group. Wonderful place to go if you can afford it. You get the picture. Now, Anita was there doing an interview with a collection of newspaper men. But what she'd agreed with one particular photographer was that the strap of her dress would come loose, and then of course everybody would be flashing their pop bulbs, you know, getting the picture, which wiped out the, shall we say, more famous stars and made sure that her trip to London got fed back to Universal Movies. You now see how it works. This trick, of course, was nothing new, because according to Mickey, and Mickey would know, being married 8 times, let me tell you, that in 1955 Jane Mansfield did a very similar thing. She was invited to the poolside premiere of a movie called Underwater, starring the very gorgeous Jane Russell. But apparently somebody pushed Jane into the swimming pool, and guess what? All thanks to a fishing hook, she managed to lose the top of her bikini. And then it was repeated again way back in 1957 as Marilyn Monroe sat with the world's greatest actor of that time, Laurence Olivier. They were promoting a movie that they had together called The Prince and the Showgirl, of which she was Marilyn Monroe Productions. What's interesting here, though, is she was worried about being upstaged by England's greatest speaking actor. So guess what? Her spaghetti strap bust. Naturally, everybody turned to Marilyn and popped their cameras in her direction, and Sir Laurence was left fuming, smoking a cigarette to one side. As ever, I hope you don't mind me sharing these fun stories with you, but it is great when you listen and look back to some of the stories that went on. And as Mickey politely told me in his very, shall we say, forthright way, some of the stuff you can't put out there because of the language, trust me. But it was interesting because he said, look, you know, everybody came up with this scheme, you know, and they were normally sort of attaching themselves to a major celebrity, of which Mickey Rooney was in that particular era. But he said for him, Anita Ekberg was truly more than just a beautiful blonde. She truly could act. But as ever in the 1950s, it was all about how you got that attention to make sure the studios signed you to a long-term 7-year contract. For my thoughts, though, is that sort of particular gimmick has been going on now for years, hasn't it? But less impactful. And am I right? Were the stars more, well, in the golden era of Hollywood, far more beautiful than what we're seeing today? As ever, I'd love to know what you think to this particular story in the comments below. Neil Sean in the very heart of Yorkshire.